Hi, I'm Laura Lively. Welcome to you and all of your parts. Last week, we talked about common parts that people might have. And I thought this week I would talk about a question that came in around, hey, you talked about my parts like they're normally younger, and this part is actually older. She's got this like old sage wise woman energy. And I thought, okay, let's talk about that because let's talk about it. I'm going to add to this about how your parts might show up for you. So the question again was, you said our parts are normally young. One of my parts showed up as an older, sage, wise woman. How can that be? Was the question. So it's not uncommon for our parts to show up as older than our physical ages, even if they themselves are young. Okay, this can happen because our parts take on the energy of someone in your life, or someone they saw in your life, or a cultural norm, as an example. So in this question, the reader who sent it to me, it could be that this person has had access to someone in her life who had this sage, wise woman energy. It's also possible that this part took on the energy of someone that she saw or admired in her culture or that she read about. But again, back to this idea of common parts that people might have. We talked about judgers, we talked about judge or judgmental parts, we talked about inner critics. It is very common. I know several people who have an inner critic or a judge that looks like the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was a Supreme Court justice in the United States. A lot of people have that energy that they've taken in. Many people also have parts that maybe are indulgers, or those indulgers might look like a kindly grandmother, whether it's their grandmother or not. It's a kindly grandmother. So it's very common for another commonality is maybe your first grade teacher is what that was the very first part that I ever found. My first grade teacher, probably, who was in her 60s at the time, and I was 50 when I first met that part, so she was therefore older than me. And in IFS, how a part shows up does not necessarily denote the part's age, nor how old the part thinks you are. It generally just means that it's picked up this energy or this image from somewhere in the environment where you grew up. I've also seen people that have parts that look like TV show characters. That's also quite common. Now, there was something in the way that this reader worded this that I want to kind of speak to. It's a little different. I want to talk about guides. Well, the person writing me said that this was a part of her, and I trust her to know that they're, her system, and that maybe it is a part of hers. She used that term older sage wise woman. And that reminded me of some archetypal energy, which again could be a part of her that she's picked up through something that she saw in life, something she's read. But also, I'm open to the experience that she might have an external guide. I'm open to the idea that this older sage wise woman might be a guide, or that you might have a guide. I have some guides. So if you ever want to ask the question, if you're talking to a guide or a part, just ask, are you a guide or are you one of my parts? They will tell you. There's no reason for them to lie. So I hope you found this information helpful. It's not uncommon for parts to show up older than we are. Quite often, we pick up that energy from the people around us in our family of origin, or school, or culture, or you may have a guide. Who knows? But hopefully this has been helpful. Drop me a note and let me know, Laura@lauralively.com. Hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on new weekly content. And until the next time, love to you and all of your parts and all of your guides.